ensure that 2027 election is in jeopardy. The dangers are identified to the 2027 elections in the manner in which the lawmakers are handling the electoral law amendment. We'll be hearing from the former convener of the election situation room and election advocate, Ms. Anna Obi, after this break, everyone. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us. So, the Nigeria's civil society groups are raising fresh concerns over delays in the National Assembly passage of crucial laws. Yeah, the Nigeria Civil Society Group are saying that the Senate's failure to conclude passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is dangerous. The group warns that the delay threatens critical electoral reforms and could undermine preparations for the 2027 general elections, with the Independent National Electoral Commission legally required to issue election notices by February. While the House of Representatives passed the bill in December, the Senate is yet to take final action, despite earlier commitments to do so before the end of last year. The Situation Room is now demanding that the upper chamber prioritize and pass the bill immediately upon resumption on the 27th of January. Some of the members of the Situation Room are also asking the question why the lawmakers are taking a long holiday when lawmakers across the globe are back to work and every citizen of the country are back to active work. Lawmakers are still on holiday. But let me allow you to listen to Mr. Wiser Yao, who is the convener of the election situation room, the Civil Society election situation room.
The Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room expresses grave concern over the failure of the National Assembly to conclude passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill in 2025 and the Senate's continued delay in acting on a bill already passed by the House of Representatives. This inaction, now compounded by a prolonged National Assembly recess extending into 2026, undermines Nigeria's electoral reform process and threatens timely preparations for the 2027 general elections.
I'm now being joined by our former convener of the CSO Situation Room, Ms. Anna Obi, who is also an election advocate. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. Happy New Year. Good to see you, ma'am.
Happy New Year to you too.
So I see that some of your colleagues were not happy that our lawmakers are still on holiday. It's what day? 23rd day of the year, but some of our lawmakers are still in recess.
Yeah, we're not happy, and that's why we made the call. We have been on a retreat. You know, we just ended our retreat this evening, and that's why the call was made yesterday. We had to grant the press conference to say this is a priority. But it's like we're back to 2021 and 2022 on the issues of the electoral, bill. Again, in other climes, in the U.S., for example, lawmakers resume on the 3rd of January. In the UK, they return, they come back on the 5th of January. But today is 23rd, and we have critical issues. The issue of electoral bill, because amendment bill requires an urgency, because I want to say thank you to you and your team for what you did in 2021, 2022. And we remember how, that the electoral bill went several times, about 6 times or 7 times before the president signed the bill. And that I can attribute a lot to what Channels did, because he made a promise and eventually he kept to that promise because we pressed on it. So for the Civil Society Situation Room, we are just involved to make a difference. We are not the politicians. We are not the ones that this is, going to work on. You can look at the political rascality that is going on. Today you can have a governor who is partyless. You move from one party to the other, but we don't field anybody's name on a sheet of a voting sheet. You only put in the party logo, and the logo brings you in, and you can just get off and get out like that because of that particular judgment. You remember the judgment?
Absolutely.
Because normally what used to happen is once you move from one party, that seat is declared, vacant. And somebody else goes in because it's the party that is voted in. But because of judicial rascality as well, it has come to say now that you can just get up and say, I'm no longer a member of this party. I will decide later. And so you have no party for even 24 hours or whatever. When you decide and you jump to, kind of rascality that is going on. But we are asking the lawmakers to make this a priority because when it happened in 2022, if you remember, the election shifted for 1 week because of the timing of the presidential assent to the bill. And so we're really, really worried and we're calling them.
So now, it's a problem of timeline. And by law, nothing in the process of election is actually a process, not an event. It doesn't just happen. There are processes by law that you must observe before the final day of voting, for which if you do not obey it, it then poses a problem. In fact, it can invalidate the actual voting or the mandate of that election. It then means that by February, the actual process of the 2027 election should have begun.
Yes.
And by the virtue of our regional laws, West African law, which says that any law that will guide an election should have been amended, framed, and finalized at a certain window before the election. So the fear that I hear from you and your colleague is that if before February nothing is done, we are in a problem. Except if we are not going to amend the law before 2027. Is that right?
Yeah. I think we were there. We were almost there, in 2022. But the National Assembly came back quickly and they amended. And they took it to the president. And the president ascended. But even that ascension, that assent was delayed. And that shifted the election for 1 week. And so it affects the political guidelines. It affects INEC guidelines. And that is why we think that the amendment is very, very essential because, the amendment is focused on giving greater independence to the Electoral Commission. It is also focused on giving, putting certain rules in place, like you're looking at the issues of those in prison, you are looking at heavier sanctions on the electoral offenders, looking at also when somebody makes pronouncement on under duress and so on and so forth. There's so many things there. And so definitely it will affect the electoral guideline. And we're saying that there have been some good suggestions that are coming up in the amendment, and the earlier they do it, the better. The FCT election is almost here.
It's next month.
It's next month. And we are here in the FCT, and we hope that whatever we do, it affects the political and the electoral processes.
By the way, the House of Representatives seem to have graduated the processes on their own table very far.
Yes.
But the delay and the drag and the law that we're experiencing, or the lag, is in the Senate.
Is in the Senate, yeah.
So is the Senate, those senior members in the red chamber, that the attention of Nigerians should be focused on? If anything goes wrong, we should blame them.
We are holding them responsible, absolutely. Because when we had the issues, the movement in 2022 was very fast between both houses. And what we are having here, the reaction from the House of Representatives has been, they did that before they went on break. But we are having the delay from the Senate, because it also takes time, so that you don't have a version control. Like what you are having with the tax laws and all of those things, you don't have a version control as soon as that. So if they don't approve it in January, it's going to slow us down.
We experienced in 2022.
Exactly.
Back and forth. That's
right.
And the danger a lot of Nigerians need to know is that it then affects INEC's preparation.
Yes.
INEC is in a state of, in a precarious situation, because then they don't know what to do, or they were then following the existing law, which is the 2022 electoral law. Then another law comes into effect, and they need to just start adjusting. But these lawmakers probably don't understand the fact that whatever delay they are doing is dangerous not only to INEC, and at the end of the day, Nigerians will be blaming INEC to have rigged the election, not knowing that the consequence of the action of the lawmakers is what is causing. But critically speaking, we do know that INEC should give notice of this election by February.
Yes.
Right.
One year to the election.
1 year to the election.
The timetable must come out.
But is it realistic that that law can be passed before February?
Well, it depends on the actions, and that's why we're worried that the resumption was delayed. I mean, Nigerian, if in developed world, that they are resuming 3rd and 5th, and in our own world where we have a lot of things to tidy up before the 2027 general election, we are still on recess.
And let me warn you,
by the 23rd.
Ramadan is coming in February.
Ramadan, by the 17th or thereabout, Ramadan will come in, and then there are other processes that will also jump in. And so we are asking them, as they resume on, what are the processes they've gone through first and second reading? Let them harmonize, move the speed, the space very quickly, knowing that they have a responsibility. Because why do we have lawmakers if they're not making the laws? What are we paying for? What have they been enabled to do? And those are the things that we're looking at. This is the 10th Assembly. The 9th Assembly did it, and we're calling on the 10th Assembly to quickly move. If not, we'll hold them responsible for whatever
But I'm
happens.
wondering what really went wrong, Ms. Obi.
Yeah.
By October of last year, the Joint Committee had come to almost a final or an agreement on a copy of that law.
Yeah.
And one would have thought that between October and December, a lot of us have thought that part of the Electoral Act amendment process would have been concluded. The constitutional amendment process will also have been graduated to a very far extent. But what exactly went wrong? All of a sudden, October went, November went, December, and nothing really happened.
Yeah,
and we are here.
At the harmonization section that there was done in Lagos, I was part of, I observed it, and some of the things that went on, one can say, what are the priorities? And when they came back from that meeting, the House of Representatives was able to hurriedly say the electoral, amendment bill requires urgency. And because of that, they took it quickly. And that's why they passed this while we're talking about special seats and all the constitutional amendments that were supposed to happen. They separated it and dealt with it. So at this point, we hold the Senate responsible for any kind of fast action that they can do. Whatever they do, we'll be watching them and we'll be holding them accountable.
My worry is that just like I warned in 2022, and it made me a prophet, a political prophet, because I said that the manner in which we were going in 2022, a lot of political parties will have entered into the election process blindly, because the electoral law, and not only because I'm a political journalist and an election coverage expert also, but also because I'm also a student of law. And I've seen a lot of technicalities in the bodies of laws guiding that election. And I said that there were going to be several problems in the alteration, Section 84 and 105, and a few other sections, 115, and a few other sections that were amended, and it happened. A lot of political parties entered into a problem. Their primaries were fundamentally flawed because they did not pay attention to the electoral law. And political parties are going to have a problem too, because when this is done, it's going to be hurriedly done when they resume.
And INEC allowed some, primaries that went on that shouldn't have gone and to be pronounced. They pronounced it, as if they didn't give enough. It is a big problem that we're having. If we don't do this, because if you remember, the late IGPRC, had to go and do a lot of training for the security, for the police, and also the security agencies. And that is what you do, because when the law comes out, you need people to familiarize themselves with the law. And this is not done just overnight. You have to, even the INEC officials, they will need to get used to the law, and they will need to come out with the regulations, what is in need for them, and what the things that they ought to do. And the citizens also need to know exactly what is in the law. And so I think at this point, we are turning to the National Assembly. As they open on Tuesday, we are calling on them to pass the law, because pass the bill, the amendment bill, so that we can quickly, INEC will jump into, because by first week of February or thereabout, they should be announcing the guideline, and also the financial, attributes as well. One of the things that the civil society followed up with, whether the money ought to be given to INEC 1 year to the election, and all of that. At the end of the day, we don't know whether INEC gets all the money or they don't get all the money, but in a situation where you have, 2024 budget and 2025 budget not even implemented, we don't know who gets money to do what and all of that.
Do you fear for the 2027 elections? In what already is happening now?
Yeah, because of the kind of rascality that I mentioned earlier, where people are jumping table from here and there.
But again, even logistic-wise, if there is a stipulated time for INEC to get the money before election.
Yeah, and they don't get it.
First line charge, they get the money. But we've been having execution of the budget.
Traumatized execution, yeah.
Are you worried?
I am worried. But they have a responsibility. And anybody who is... what you do during your process, you take responsibility. And so...
Thank you so much indeed. It's always a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much
indeed.
Have a great year.
She was the convener of the CSO Situation Room on elections. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Solidarity forever. And Victoria Asata. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm sure Kimbaloe. On Sunday, don't forget, at PM, we've got something cooking for you. I see you again. Bye-bye, everyone. God bless Nigeria.